for the UN leadership. What did the Pope say and how was he received?
Well, it's been a big day, I think, since he arrived in the United States, whether in Washington, whether here in New York, or whether in Philadelphia later this week. And just to sort of summarize what was a 45-minute speech to the General Assembly, before that speech to the General Assembly, he met privately with UN staff, paying tribute to the UN's fallen personnel in various conflict zones around the world, and then to really encapsulate the Charter of the United Nations, calling for member states to uphold the Charter of the United States, not only when it is convenient to their national interests, but when it is convenient to how it is applied around the world. And I think that really is kind of the broadest perspective, whether we're talking about climate change, whether we're talking about the eradication of poverty. In addition to that, Peter, he also called for reforming the multilateral system, mentioning by name the Security Council and various financial institutions. So this was really a speech appealing to the conscience of the international community and leaving them with a message similar to that of Nelson Mandela, that it is in their hands to effect this change, and calling on them to do exactly that.
Well, speaking about the UN body, 70 years on, we're moving from the MDGs to the SDGs. Has that happened?
Well, it's the sequel, is it not, Peter? For the next 15 years, we will no longer call them the MDGs, we'll call them the SDGs, and really setting some very firm deadlines. By 2030, the end of poverty, the end of hunger. Gender equality needs to be achieved within the next 15 years. We need to take care of our climate, and that has just, I can tell you, if you didn't know, the General Assembly has adopted a resolution endorsing those goals, so we now officially have the SDGs. And the Pope also calling not only for words that are solemn, and by adopting this agenda, he's also calling for action from world leaders. Of course, it is important how these SDGs are implemented over the next two years, so that we don't talk, as Francis spoke earlier, about a mixed bag of results. We talk about having accomplished those very clear ideals come the year 2030.
All right, and finally, our president is going to be addressing the UN a little bit later on, and I'm sure that reform is definitely on the agenda. And he had some tough words about some of the superpowers last week. I guess that theme will continue.
That is a theme that tends to show its head, or rear its head, every year here at the United Nations. It's the top of the agenda. We spoke earlier with the International Relations Minister, Maita Mashabane, and as much as calling these goals noble and achievable, she also said it's not going to be an excuse for us not to talk about restructuring the multilateral system. I can confirm President Zuma has arrived in the country about an hour ago. He will address first the SDG summit, Peter, on Sunday afternoon, and then he will provide the country statement at the 70th anniversary of the UN General Assembly. That will take place on Monday.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it. That's Sherwin Bryce Peace reporting live from New York.